live struggle legacy. It's a whole movement.
Hey everybody, it's your boy MP, Live Struggle Legacy, and welcome to episode 7 of the Live Struggle Legacy podcast. So if you haven't already done so, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, that follow button on whatever platform you're using. Like, share, comment, engage. And if you have not already, make sure you go back and listen to the first 6 episodes. Right now we're in a series of events. So if you're just now tapping in, make sure you go do your research first. I would stop watching right now, go back to previous episodes, get up to speed. In episode 6, I picked up on the indictment papers. I talked a little bit about the way a conspiracy works. I talked about, an event that kind of was the tip of the iceberg, so to speak. And we ended when I was actually designated to prison. So I told you about diesel therapy, how they put me through transit. And so I finally was designated to my very first prison in Williamsburg, South Carolina, Williamsburg FCI. It was a medium-high disciplinary spot. So this is my first prison ever. And if you remember, like Tupac said, the pen ain't nothing like the county jail. Now, this wasn't a USP, a United States Penitentiary. People, you hear words thrown around, but these words actually mean things. So I was in an FCI, Federal Correctional Institution, medium high. And, you got 3 levels of barbed wire. You got a gun tower. And it's real. It's real. So in the last episode, I was telling you about my journey in. And I really want to pick up here because prison's not a good place. It's not. But when I was in the county jail, I met this dude. And he was on some big cartel case. I mean, I honestly think dude was probably a big ass rat. But he was my cellie. There's no way around it. You get to know somebody. And this was in Orient Road during all the diesel therapy and whatnot. And this dude was actually, he was like watching a house or something. It doesn't even matter what he was doing. But he got caught with a whole lot and wasn't about to do a whole lot of time. He was already sentenced. And he was one of my very first cellies. This is before prison. But I want to share this thought because he broke down something to me that I will never forget. And I want to break it down for you all. He drew me a picture of the yin and the yang. And, I had an idea of what I thought that meant, but he broke it down for me in a way. And the crazy thing is, this is like a super Christian dude. A lot of people, when they go to jail, become like super Christians or super Muslims or super Jewish. They're super religious, so to speak. And I'm not knocking that. Whatever you got to do to get through, right? So, but it's a little odd to see somebody that's like super religious promoting like Taoism or any other kind of ism, right? So he breaks down this yin and this yang. And the one side is mostly black and you have that small circle of white. And then the other side is perfectly balanced with mostly white and you have that small circle of black. And the way he broke it down for me was like this. You could be in a really dark place, a really bad place, but it's not all bad. You got to look for that light. It's there. You may not see it, but it's there. And as long as you focus on that light and you focus on it for long enough and hard enough, well, eventually it will pull you through to that other side. But when you're on that other side and it seems like it's all good, there's always a little bit of something lurking. So you always got to be alert. You always got to be self-aware. Never think you're too good, right? So that meant something to me. I don't know if it means anything for y'all. But when I was driving to Williamsburg, shackled down, about to piss my pants, freezing cold because we're on the road for X amount of hours and they got the air probably 58 degrees in there. In the last episode, I told you how I was riding down this country South Carolina road. We're almost there to the prison. The sun's just rising up. I see the fall leaves changing color. I see that sunrise. And I knew, even though I was going to a dark place, that I was going to find that light. And I did. I wouldn't be who I am right now had I not been through all of this. Right? You know, and another thing that dude told me, that was my cellie, my very first cellie. We were only cellies for like, not even a week because they were diesel theraping me a couple days. But when you're locked down 24/7, you get to know somebody. And you're in this little cell sharing a toilet and a sink and a small little confined space. So he told me about the yin and the yang, which clearly stuck with me. But he also used to always say, there are no mistakes, only lessons. There are no mistakes, only lessons. So here I am, Williamsburg, South Carolina. They put us through this, I guess you could call it booking. I don't really know the term. But every time you do diesel therapy, you strip down. I can't tell you how many times I had police touching my nuts, having me bend over and cough, looking in my ass, wiping my feet. Everywhere you go, they strip search you. So that's the first thing you do. They take you through, they strip search you, and then you have to go through something called SIS. I don't remember what that acronym is, but that's basically like the investigation team of the prison. They're like clearly we're in jail and there's a bunch of COs, correctional officers, so they're all cops. But here's an interesting fact. Anybody who works in a prison, whether they're a nurse, a psychologist, a mail lady, every single one of them are the police. They are correctional officers. They are trained to take you down. They are trained to arrest. They are officers. Every single one of them. The nurse lady, the mail lady, the kitchen lady, all of them are the police, right? So, but within that, you might as well look at SIS like special investigations. That's probably what SIS stands for. Special, I guess, I don't even know. Somebody probably could drop it in the comments. But SIS, when you first come to a new prison, now prison's nothing like the county jail. Nothing like it. It's a literal city. It's like a college campus, right? So I'll touch on more of that in a moment. But when you first go through, you know, the bus pulls up, and in our case, the van. And of course, when you're coming out, you got the dudes. They got the shotguns. I mean, they're ready. You get wrong, they're gonna pump your ass full of lead. There ain't no rubber bullets or sandbags. It's lead. Live ammunition, ready, kill on sight. So, then they take you. They strip search you, and then they give you your issue. Khakis at the time. It was khakis. They give you basically hard toe boots, khaki pants, khaki shirt. That varies prison to prison, but this is what we wore in Williamsburg and in the medium high. And they bring me in through SIS, and at this time I got this big ass fro and I got this big ass beard. I didn't cut it the whole time. And so when the dude brings me in through SIS, they're so fucking lame, man. They're trying to meet you where they think you're at because they read your file. And they start talking to you like they know you. And you know, this is your first time seeing these people, but they got your whole jacket in front of you. They can look at anything that's on your case, who your co-defendants are, any other spot you've been. They got your whole file right there. And they look at that before you go in. And before you can even touch the yard, they talk to you. They want to find out, okay, do you got co-defendants on here? Are you going to potentially try to kill somebody? Are you going to potentially get killed? You know, are you an active gang member? Is there going to be some shit to pop off? So they're grilling me with all this shit. And I'm a tough code to crack, y'all, because, you know, I am who I am, and I don't change, and I'm not affiliated with no gangs, but I got the most diverse group of people around me. So they're trying to figure me out, and this motherfucker doesn't know what to do. He sees my last name. He tries to start speaking to me in Spanish. I'm Italian, but I don't speak Italian either. I actually do speak a little Spanish, but I just looking at this motherfucker like, what? You know what I mean? Like, I don't speak Spanish. You know what I mean? What? Can I go now? And then he starts trying to speak to me in Muslim. I mean, in Arabic, pardon me, in Arabic. And so I'm looking at, he thought I was Muslim. because of my beard and my hair. And this motherfucker asked me if I was affiliated with the Taliban. Okay? I cannot make this shit up. And when he said that, I started cracking up laughing. I'm like, I thought he was joking. I thought he was trying to clown because I had the big beard and the big hair. This motherfucker was not joking at all. He was as serious as a heart attack. And which to me was even funnier. Of course, I start laughing even more. So once I get through his little dumbass shit, they designate me to the unit. Now, I told you I had my one co-defendant with me that I didn't really know that well before my case, but we got to know each other real well in Citrus, in the holdover. So we get ready to go to the chow hall, the cafeteria, right? They call it the chow hall. And one thing about prison, everything is on controlled movement. And the best way I can describe this so that everybody would understand, if you've never been in this, if you've been in public high school, when the bell rings, in between periods, you got like 1 or 2 minutes to get to class, right? Well, that's how controlled movement works. In a medium high, you got the triple barbed wire fences, but everything has a big steel door with a lock and key everywhere you go, whether you're in the chow hall, whether you're in the library, whether you're in the rec yard. So when they call the controlled movement, they got a cop from a loudspeaker saying, 10 minute. They had 10-minute moves, they had 5-minute moves, and they had 2-minute moves, right? So 10-minute move is basically like open compound. That you could actually get around and do something. You can go to the library real quick, get a book, and come back. Ideally, it doesn't usually work like that. But let's say you got a homeboy in another unit. You're not supposed to be in another unit. They call a 10-minute move. Now you can run over there to that unit real quick, get you some stamps or some mackerel, whatever it is you got going on, right? Now, meanwhile, there's COs, cops, all around the yard, and they're stopping you, patting you down. One might grab you, throw you into a little, like a holding cell, and make you get butt naked and strip search you. They just do that randomly. They might not like the way you look. And, hey, shake down, make you get butt naked. So this is my first time ever experiencing any of this. And so I remember when we first walked out on the yard, you see this big ass yard, and now there's a big wall, kind of like a penitentiary, not quite as big as a penitentiary, but it's a compound. So you got all this concrete, and then behind that concrete, you have the patrol officer that drives around. You got the gun tower, and you got the three layers of barbed wire fences outside of that. So I'm painting this picture. But when you walk in that compound, it's this big, like, I don't know what shape it is. I'm sure it's some kind of Masonic shape or something in the middle of that. They got signs and symbols for everything, but you're right in the middle of it. And so when we first walked on the yard, we had just got there, so there was no movement, so we didn't see anybody on the yard. It's like just this big open field, huge. I'm talking about bigger than a college campus. So to put it in perspective, there were 1,800 convicts housed in this one spot. 1,800. So that's how many people were housed in this spot. And you got Unicor on one side, and that's prison industry, which I'll touch on in a moment. Then you got like the barbershop, you got laundry, you got the cafeteria, the chow hall. Then you got the officers' mess where all the cops eat, which is separate. And then you got the housing units, these big ass, like, they're double stacked units, and then each unit is 2 stories. So it's like 4 stories. Everything concrete and steel. Everything you see is concrete and steel. And then when you go into the units, you got 2-man cells. And initially they only had like a couple 3-man cells, and they were bigger. Well, how about when they started running their numbers up through, all these laws and shit, locking motherfuckers up, as I talked during the last podcast, they started doing 3-man bunks. Everybody 3-man bunks. You were lucky to have a 2-man bunk. That was super rare. So they got us packed in these little ass cells like sardines. So I'll talk more about units in a minute, but I'm going to talk about my first day on the yard. So we walked down on the yard. You don't see anybody. And then they put us, I don't remember where they put us just for a minute while we waited. And then they called the move. When they called the move, it's crazy. So all of a sudden you see people To see this for the first time is crazy. It's like you're inside an ant farm and you see people just pouring out the unit. Stacked, like it looks like they're walking on top of each other. And I mean, they look just like ants and they're stepping because, you know, they got X amount of time and everybody's on a mission. You know, you're going to see your partner or you're going to eat or whatever the hell it is you got going on. They open up that compound and it's like an ant farm just trailing down. So then that empty yard all of a sudden just fills up with bodies. Fills up. I mean, at least 1,000 because there's 1,800 people. And when they call that movement, you're moving. So they put us in our first unit, and my very first cellie was an OG, cool as a motherfucker, and I was blessed to have him. I'm not gonna lie, he had already done like a 10-year bid at Coleman, which is the Fed spot in Florida, and so he was kind of schooling me up and shit. And he was an older dude, but he kept that cell immaculate. I mean, immaculate. These people got their cells like apartments, like laid out. He got extra blanket that he had like hemmed into a rug. He's got this little like smell good. You would dip it in the toilet and dip the toilet paper in the smell good and then put it in the air vent. Had the room smelling all fresh. And they would use toothpaste to shine the sinks. Now, you do not under any circumstance spit in the sink. And you learn this in accounting because remember, you're locked in this tiny little cell. And if you're locked down, like let's say there's a riot or there's a fight, you might be locked in that cell for 2 weeks. No rec, no nothing. They feed you through a box, right? So this is my cell. With my cell, they got a stainless steel mirror right there, so you can't break it. He's got it all polished up with the toothpaste. They would actually they would pay dudes to buff out. They would come take the buffers from the floor and they would buff out the stainless steel seats. So, you know, you could tell a motherfucker did a lot of time when they got the chromed out toilet and shit. We would always make jokes. You know, man, bro's shitting on chrome. You know, like he would chrome out everything. And so that's where you cook your food. That's where you have your water fountain. You're drinking your water out of that. And it's all attached. You got the sink up here. You got the toilet down there. Like, y'all probably seen this in memes, but this is our real life. This ain't no county jail shit. This is where you're housed for years. Motherfuckers stay in there for years on top of years. I stayed in this one spot for 2 years. But you got people been in this same spot since it opened. 9, 10 years, whatever the case may be. This was a fairly new spot, so I don't know if it was that old. But, so, you know, and my cellie was from Charleston. He was originally from the Bahamas, but he was from Charleston. And this is my first time ever being introduced to the Geechee Gullah culture. Which is pretty incredible if you've never experienced it. Like, I met all these dudes from Charleston. Now, this guy really was from the islands. He was from the Bahamas, but he had that Charleston accent. And if you heard anybody from like the Geechee Gullah culture, they got this accent that's one of a kind. And it sounds like they're from the islands if you don't know. Like, if you ask dude where you from, he's like, I from Charleston. I from Charleston. You know, like he got this. I can't really describe it. You got to hear it for yourself. So, but bro schooled me up. He helped me relax a lot. He was like, I was like, listen, man, I need a knife. He's like, what the fuck you need a knife for? I was like, I don't know, bro, but everybody say I need a knife. So motherfucker not finna take my damn commissary. Motherfucker's not finna run down on me. Like, none of this shit. I need a knife. First motherfucker try me, I'm gonna flay his ass. And he's like, listen, man, you need to relax. You need to relax. He's like, if you're not out here gangbanging, if you don't owe people money, you're not out here fucking with punks, no disrespect, but there's certain rules that you need to live by and you will never have a problem. And I already knew the rules. So before I go into a lot of the happenings in the FCI, I'll talk about my 4 rules. These are my 4 rules. And I was schooled by others, but my 4 rules was don't drink or do drugs. Don't get into debt. Don't gamble. And that kind of goes with don't get into debt. And don't talk to homosexuals. And I know a lot of people probably like, don't talk to homosexuals. Is he a homophobe? Or, listen, man, it's a different world. You got to understand there might be, and I have no problem with homosexuals. I have homosexual friends, homosexual family members, and I love it all my heart. But this is a different world, John. You might just meet a homosexual that's cool but you don't know somebody got a crush on this motherfucker. And you might just be talking to him in the child line like it's nothing, and somebody suddenly gets jealous. And then the next thing you know, you got a motherfucker putting a knife in your back because they think that you're talking to their bitch, so to speak, right? And forgive me if this is vulgar, but this is real. This is uncensored shit, y'all. This really happens. So that's an important rule. If you don't want to be on the radar, you don't want problems, you don't want static, right? So these were the rules that I lived by. I never broke one of those rules, not once. I even added another rule just because of what I had seen, and that was don't play games. Don't play games. I did not play games. I can't tell you how many fights I saw over the Monopoly board in the county jail. Dudes about to cut each other to pieces, stabbing each other with pencils and shit over a fucking Monopoly game. You know what? I saw so many fights over softball, basketball, because, you know, now we're in prison. It's not like jail. You got softball leagues, you got basketball leagues, you got soccer leagues, you got crochet leagues, leather making leagues. Like, I mean, this is a city. These people are not here for a couple days. People are serving life sentences in this spot, literal life sentences, right? So just to give you a little idea about the mentality that I had when I stepped onto the yard, and everybody's different. I mean, truth be told, most people, when they go to prison, they learn how to do more criminal shit. You know what I mean? Like, you might have went in there for crack, but then some hillbilly teaches you how to cook meth. Now you know how to use household chemicals to, you know, make $1 million, right? Or you might be in there for drugs and somebody teaches you about fraud. Now you know how to get out there. And so it's like, this is rehabilitation? No, ain't no rehabilitation. And I'll talk more about that in a moment. If you rehabilitate, it's because of the choices that you made, the books that you read, the energy that you chose to create in this space. Because you always have a choice, right? So we're in our first unit, and they did put my co-defendant in the same unit as me. And this is crazy. They put him in the unit with this dude that actually was a part of the BMF, right? He was Big Meech co-defendant, and I'm pretty sure he put some of them dudes in prison, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know that much about it. Do that a lot of time, though. A lot of time. But they said he was a rat. He still had like 30 years, but he might have been facing a life. You don't know. Motherfucker facing life, and when you get a life sentence, you don't have a release date. When you look at somebody's release date and they have a life sentence that says deceased, that means they are holding you until you are dead. This is facts. So if somebody gets a life sentence and they can get that reduced to 30 years, they'll tell, right? So that's who they put my homie, my Cody, in the cell with. And I was in the cell with OG from Charleston. And right away he told us, he's like, hey man, oh boy, well, cool. He'll try to like give you money and do this and that, but just know he's just looking for friends because people don't like him, people don't fuck with him. So just be careful. And you know, he's putting us on game. He's not gossiping, but he sees that, you know, we're not active in no politics shit. We're not no racist. We're not on no bullshit. He just sees two dudes coming in, doing their time, trying to get home to their family. So he's helping us, right? And thank God for people like that, because some people see that and they want to jump on that and try to, you know, feed on that, take advantage of that, right? But I was really blessed to have some OGs kind of show me the ropes right away, namely my cellie. But damn did that motherfucker snore. That motherfucker snored so loud, I don't think I ever heard somebody. He was like a Chevy motor, like an old Chevy motor. I got those earplugs and you could feel the vibration. Thank God I didn't have him too long as a cellie. No disrespect, Chuck. His name was Chuck. Chuck from the Chuck from Charleston. So, all right. So they call chow. When they call chow, everybody hits that door. Boom. So now you go to the chow hall, and when you go to the chow hall, the cafeteria, if you want to know who somebody is, just see where they sit at that chow hall, because all you got to do is look at who somebody's sitting with, and that'll tell you a lot about that person. You know, and of course, tattoos. You look at tattoos. That's the first thing you learn in prison. You want to know about somebody. Somebody jumps off the bus or something. You look at their tattoos. It'll tell you who they are. If it's a white boy and he's got a bunch of white power shit, okay, you know he's a skinhead. If somebody got, you know, whatever gang, you know, okay, this is that gang. So you get an idea of who somebody is by their tattoos. But when you go in that chow hall, wherever you sit, you're going to sit with your like kind. And so let me paint that picture a little bit. So certain gangs can't be on compounds with other gangs, especially with the cartel shit. So because these spots, they're like, I want to say it was like 60% Mexican. And what's so crazy about it is the vast majority of these Mexican dudes were in there for illegal entry. And how much sense did this, not to open the whole political fucking can of worms, right? But you got people, so when you first get your first illegal reentry, they deport you. That's it. When you get your second illegal reentry, you get a little bit of time. And I want to say it's like a year and a day or something. But if you get your third illegal reentry, they give you 4 years. And I've seen people with 10-year sentences because it was like their fifth or whatever illegal reentry. And so it's kind of hilarious. It's laughable because you got to understand that some of these dudes are making more money in prison than they were making in the village they were living in Mexico. They have better living conditions in prison than they had in the places they were living in Mexico. They get free education. They get fed 3 meals a day guaranteed, and then if they have a hustle, that's even more. So it's like, already they're looking for a better life. What the fuck do they care if they get caught coming back, because they're going to just get fed and housed for some years and then get the opportunity all over again. Like one of the dudes told me himself, he's like, shit, when they let me out, I'm coming right back. He's like, how you think I learned English? He learned English in prison. You know, so that's the vast majority. But here's the thing. I told you I don't play politics. You know, when we first get on the yard, people press you to try to be active in their politics, and that's on you. If you're your own man, then you will not be pressed. But if you're weak, you think you need protection, maybe you're a rat, maybe you are a child molester, or maybe you just are scared and you feel like you need to hide behind a clique or a set or a religion. Because, like, again, no disrespect to religion, but you go to prison and people hide behind religion like gangs. You know, you might be a rat, told on your whole city, fucked everybody over. Now you come to prison, it's like, okay, well, Jesus Christ forgives me for all my sins. I'm going to sit with you guys, and hey, I'm with God now. And I'm not knocking that, but that's what you see. And you could be a cold-blooded piece of shit, but this group of people will accept you. So, back to the cafeteria. I talked about how Mexicans probably had the strongest presence, and only certain gangs can be there because it's all cartel driven. So in this particular spot, the main two gangs were Paisa and Sereno. And Sereno was kind of combined with MS-13. So those are two, I don't want to say opposite sides because I'm not at all privy to the politics, but Paisas sit over here, Serenos sit over here. You got a unit, you're not going to put Paisas and Serenos in the same unit. You got Paisas in this unit, Serenos in that unit, right? And then you got Florida, you got Georgia, you got South Carolina, you got Muslims, but Muslims are broken up into different groups. So you got Sunnis, they all sit like, traditional Sunnis. And then you got your more science people, right? And then you got your Nation of Islam people, right? So that's like 3 different sects, right? Different cars. So what is a car? A car is who you get in the car, like in the streets. You get in the car, you got all your homeboys in the car. Well, that's how it is in prison. The car is who you roll with. It's who you sit with. That's who you work out with. Because the people that you eat with are going to be the same people that you work out with, the same people you walk with on the rec yard. And a lot of it's just camaraderie, but a lot of it is politics. Because there are all these representatives. You got shot callers from each clique. Paisas have a shot caller. Serenos have a shot caller. Bloods have a shot caller. Crips have a shot caller. Vice Lords. GDs. Florida has a shot caller. Carolina. Right? So this is where there's no way around politics, because if somebody's affiliated with one of these groups, which you see in the chow hall, these groups all sit together in their respective cars. And then there's the neutral table. So if you don't want to really be affiliated with anybody, you sit at the neutral table, but that might not be the place to be because you got child molesters sitting at that table. You got rats that were real pieces of shit told on their family members sitting at that table, right? So it's like you kind of want to fall in somewhere so you don't end up at the table with the motherfucker who wants to sit with a bunch of child molesters, sex offenders and shit. And you got to sit somewhere, right? So this is kind of hilarious. My first day in the kitchen, so me and my co-defendant decided that when we got on this yard that we were going to stick together no matter what, just in case. Like, okay, we don't know nobody, so we need to stick together. So now, when we first got on we were in the van, there was a dude from Tampa. I don't want to put his business out there, but he was from Tampa. So already, like, a little silver lining. He was coaching us up on, oh, this spot's okay, the food's good, but, you know, they got this and this. And he's telling us a little bit. But he don't know it, so he's not going to say too much. And he was like, man, make sure when you get there that you find Florida. There's like, we got a lot of homeboys there. And you can usually tell in Fed where you're from because the last 3 numbers on your docket number is your region. So unless you caught your case in a different region, like for example, the whole middle district of Florida, as south as Fort Myers and as north as Jacksonville, was 018. And then you got North Florida, like the Panhandle, Tallahassee, and all that. That's 017. And then for some reason, down there at the bottom, Fort Lauderdale, Miami, and all that, that's 004. So if you got any one of those 3 numbers, you're like, oh, that's the homie. You know what I mean? Oh, where you from? You that's the first thing somebody comes off the bus. You look at the shirt. 018. Damn, where you from, homie? Oh, you from Tampa? Oh, I'm from the Berg. You know, and so this is how you build that camaraderie. So the homie, I just call him Toto. So the homie Toto tells us, man, make sure you find the car. Florida's deep out here, man. You got a lot of homeboys out here from St. Pete. You got, you know, a couple homies from Tampa. So it's like, okay. But, man, and I promised my bro, my Cody, that we would stick together, right? So the first thing he does, no disrespect to my dog, but, like, he's real friendly. And I don't mean that in any bad way whatsoever. Like, he's a good dude, so he expects other people to be good. And when you do good by people, you don't always see what other people's intentions are, right? So, but I promised my dog, wherever he go, I'm going. So he walks in the yard, and it's kind of overwhelming because you see everybody's real serious. You see all these different groups. Damn, where do I sit? Am I going to sit in the wrong spot? Like, whatever, you know. So I see my bro, and he's waving. He's like, hey, come over here. And then some hillbilly ass white dude that was in the bus with us, he's like, hey, come sit over here. Come sit over here. This is Florida. So we go over there, and I see nothing but white guys. And I'm just going to be honest, like, I'm not on no race shit, but, like, that's not, like, who I was sitting with all the time in the streets. You know what I mean? Like, that's not where I was sitting at all the time in high school. So it's like, why all of a sudden am I sitting at this like, I'm going to say what it is, like a hillbilly table, right? So, but I'm looking around, I look at my bro, and remember I told you the first thing you do is you look at the tattoos. So I'm like, you know, I'm not staring at, now, of course, the white guy, he's introducing us to all the white guys. He's like, hey, they're so excited to see us. I can't even tell you because there was 1,800 people on that compound, and I don't think there was 100 white guys. I don't think there was 100. It's prison. You know what I mean? I don't think there was 100 white guys in this spot. So when the white boys see somebody that even has light complexion, they're all over you. Hey, homeboy, they're like, hey, we got a care package for you. I got toothpaste, I got this, I got that. And I already know the rules from the county jail. I don't want nothing from nobody. And they're like, well, you can accept the care package. I'm like, no, I don't want it. Now, my homeboy already accepted the care package. And now all of a sudden, all these white guys are trying to be like our best friends. Like they know us from the streets, right? So I don't say nothing, but I'm being cordial. I'm not being rude. I'm just looking at all their tattoos. I'm seeing, you know, Confederate flags, I'm seeing swastikas, I'm seeing the double lightning bolts. I'm like, okay, clearly this is not my people. So, and I'm like looking at bro like, oh man, you fucked up, dog. This is not the table we're supposed to be at. So, we finish eating, and whenever you finish eating, you knock at the table. So, like, right, salutations, goddammit. So, we leave. And as soon as I'm out of earshot, I'm like, no, bro, that's not the spot. That's not where we sit, bro. We need to find our homeboys, like people like that was like us in the streets. We wasn't like that, you know. And I told you I didn't know him in the streets, but we were the only 2 white boys on this entire case of over 17 people. So you know he's more like me than he is like these other guys that we were sitting with. He was just trying to be nice and didn't want to be rude, and they invited us to the table. Well, never again. But the comedy of all this is the next time we go. So now we go to the unit, we find the homeboys, and everybody's like, okay, this is where Florida sits. And it's crazy because Florida had this big section. And but I'll tell you, some other people that sat with Florida, Georgia sat right here. So it was kind of like a regional thing. And then all the island guys sat with Florida, like the guys from the Virgin Islands, Jamaica, Bahamas, all the island guys sat at the Florida section, right? So now we're with our homies, and then we're meeting people. Oh, this is one homeboy from Orlando. Oh, this is such and such. And then we met a couple people from St. Pete. So the funny thing is, after that, all those white guys that were our best friends and offering us care packages, I'm seeing the same ones. I'm like, hey, what's up, bro? Motherfucker don't even look at me. Keep going the other way. I'm like, see another one. Yo, what's good, man? They don't even look at me. They don't fuck with us. They made it real clear. I guess we chose. It's like, okay, but I'm not on that. I went with people that were familiar to me, not people that had the same skin color as me. You know, so everybody's not on that, but there's definitely a huge demographic that is, and most people are just motivated by fear. They are scared, so they feel like they need to join forces, right? I never felt like that. I was never scared in there. I'll be honest. Like, I was scared of dying in that bitch, but I was scared of dying because if you get sick, you're going to die. You're going to die in a cell. You know what I mean? Like, that's the one thing. I didn't think I was going to make it out. I'm not going to lie. And I didn't think I was going to get murdered. I thought I was going to get like some horrible ass virus because this shit's so dirty. And when they lock you in the cell, you can't even take a shower. You know, like, that was my fear. My fear wasn't other people because I know I haven't done wrong to nobody. I didn't hurt nobody. I didn't rat on nobody. There's nobody out to get me. So, you know, that's what carried me through my whole bid, keeping that attitude. So, I talked about the unit. I talked about my first bunkie. And then I'll tell you a funny thing that happened. I told you about my co-defendant and my good friend's bunkie and how he was on the BMF case. He had a whole bunch of time. He had stupid money. And he would try to like buy our friendship and shit. But so me and my homie, we're trying to figure out how we can get in the cell together. Cause I love my cellie, but he snores so loud. I can't do this. I cannot do this. Those earplugs, they're not working. So I'm trying to figure out, how do I get in the cell with my homeboy? And we're waiting to see, you know, and it's kind of like one of those things where tragedy sometimes opens up opportunities. One of the most common, you know, fights you see in there are cellies. 2 cellies that don't mix. It's no gangs. It's no money. It's nothing. It's just 2 cellies had enough of each other. Bing, bang, boom. And then next thing you know, they're both gone and the cell opens up. Right? So we're not wishing none of this, but we're being schooled. This is what has to happen in order for us to get in the cell. Well, this shit's crazy. So my homeboy was in the cell with his bunkie. This is like day 2 or 3 of us on this prison yard. And all of a sudden, I'm in the cell with my bunkie. And now you're locked down at night. They count you X amount of times, and then you're locked down at night. But throughout the day, unless you're on lockdown, the cell doors are open. They only close the main door to the compound. So you can move freely throughout the unit. And they got TVs down there. You tap in on your radio station to the TV. They have different radio stations for different TVs. You get your headset, your radio, and you know, they got a microwave. They got the pay phones and all that. All that is free game if you're not locked down. So I'm in the cell with my cellie reading or whatever it was I was doing. And all of a sudden we hear tap, tap, tap on the door, and I see it's my bunkie, and I'm like, yo, come in. So he comes in, and his face is white as a ghost, and his eyes got big as hell. He's like, bro, I think they're in there fucking up my cellie right now. And then my bunkie, And he's not no gossip dude, but you want to know what's going on. And he's one of those people who always want to know what's going on. His eyes get all big. He said, for real? And then so we all look out the window, and all of a sudden we see his bunkie straight up top. And when you go up top, I mean, it can mean a number of things. It can mean the lieutenant's office. It usually means you're about to tell something. In this case, he went to the officer station. So the officer has a station where they sit with their computer and their little desk, and that's where they sit, because there's always an officer for each compound, and they do different shifts. So, and you don't want to be seen over there talking to them motherfuckers, even if you're asking them about like medical or something. You don't, fuck all that. You don't stand over there and talk to the police. If you talk to the police, make sure there's a whole bunch of people around, because you don't want to create the image of being a rat. Because I'm telling you, people, you don't know what people see and what's on people's mind, even if that's not the intention, right? So you got to be so aware of your every move, because you're being watched. You're being watched by the police. You're being watched by gangs. You may be watched by a sexual predator. You don't know who's watching you, but everybody's watching your every move. So you don't want to do what he did. So we're looking out the window, and we see his cellie beeline out of the cell and go straight to the CO's, to the officer station. That was the last time we ever see that man. The next thing you know, they're calling people's names left and right. They're taking the dudes out of the unit and shipping them up to the lieutenant's office. So what had happened was we went into the cell. Now the cell is gone. We went into the cell, and it smelled like throw up like a motherfucker in there. So you know what they did is they went in there and they whooped that man's ass. They threw the towel over the window, like I told you in the last episode. Like when you take a shit, you're not supposed to do this, but everybody does it because it's a little bit of privacy that you get. When you take a shit, you throw a towel over the little narrow window, and that gives you that little bit of privacy until the police decide they're going to come swing the door open while you're taking a shit. People do that when they want to jack their dick. They throw the towel over the window so they can jack their dick because, you know, you want privacy. So anyway, the dudes threw the towel over the window on my homeboy Selly, and they beat his ass, but it was all body shots. So he must have been throwing up. But what these dudes would do is they would press him for money. Then the story came out. These dudes would constantly press him for money. They were all from Charleston. They knew he was a rat. So the car, his homeboys, because they didn't respect him because he was a rat, and they knew he had money, they would shake him down all the time. Give us money, give us money. They beat his ass, take his stamps, and their stamps are money. And this dude was also a bookie. So gambling's real big in there. You bet, you make sports bets with stamps, and the bookies make a lot of money, and they got a lot of money, and they're also targets. So I'll tell you another story about that. That's crazy. So now a cell opens up. He's like, yo. So the first thing I do, I wait for an opportunity so it don't look like I'm no motherfucking police. I get you have to put in a request form. I forget what they call it, but it doesn't even matter. I put in a request form, and they call it a cop out. You put in a cop out. It's a request form. So I fill out my cop out, my request form, and I ask for a cell change. So they approved it. Now, boom, within a couple of days, now I'm going to sell with my homeboy, and we're back to riding again. And so, you know, we're falling into our little groove. There's so many stories to tell about this one spot, but I want to flip it on a little bit more positive note, because I told you about that light. I was looking for that light the second I walked in, but I was also real defensive, you know, and on guard, because I'm in a strange place with strange people, and everything is not what it seems, and everyone is not who they say they are. So this one dude came up to me the first day we made it out there, and he was a real country white guy from Alabama, and I'm thinking he's just another white guy looking for white comrades for protection or whatever else the case may be. And he invited me to the church. Well, I'm spiritual. I'm not religious, and so I don't knock anybody in their religion, but it's just not for me. I'm not going to jail and all of a sudden running to the church. I do my own spiritual practice. So I'm cool. Thank you. And then the dude came up to me again on a different day, and he was like, hey, you want to do some yoga? So I don't know if I told y'all this in previous episodes, but when I was 20, before I even caught my big case, and I was on house arrest on my state case a long time ago, I read Life and Death by Russell Simmons. And when I read that book, I learned about yoga and how it helped Russell Simmons. It helped Russell Simmons get off PCP. It helped him put his plan together to build Def Jam to be what it was. So, and if I'm going to be totally honest with myself and y'all, I kind of was looking at yoga for the wrong reasons. Like, damn, is that going to help me succeed? Is that going to help me get focused so I can succeed? But now that it's coming to me, and even when I was in the citrus holdover waiting to go to prison, I was thinking about yoga more as like, okay, I need to figure something out because I'm hot-headed, I'm hot-tempered, I'm not going to let anybody try me, and I also got to be careful what I say because somebody might piss me off and I might say the wrong thing, and next thing you know, shit pops off, I'm getting shipped, I'm losing good time, you know, meaning I'm going to end up with more time. So it's like, these are the things you think about. And I was doing a lot of exercise, but the thing about exercise is, for me anyway, yeah, it calms me down. Yeah, it helps me think. But when you start bulking up and you start building muscle, you start to build testosterone. And with testosterone, you start to have an inflated ego, or just straight up, you start to just be aggressive. And you're not around women. You're not jacking your dick. I mean, sure, you're going to jack your dick in there at some point. But, you know, you're not a mad gunner. And I'll tell you what a mad gunner is in a second. That's somebody, a habitual masturbator, so to speak. Somebody who jacks their dick constantly. So, and I'm not one of them. I'm just going to be real. So, I'm not trying to be in there either. There's men all around you. How could you possibly focus to do that? There's men everywhere. So, I'm trying to figure out what I can do to keep myself cool, because I'm not smoking weed no more. And you smell weed everywhere you go on the compound, or you smell that weird spice shit. But everything's there that you want. But you're all on the radar. Everybody can see everything. Everything you do, everybody knows what you're doing. And don't think that they don't. Like all them SIS investigation people, they got rats in every unit. They got information being fed to them, kites being sent under the door. That's when somebody snitches and puts an envelope under the door. Like, this is what you got. You're basically living in an aquarium and got people staring in the aquarium and staring at you within the aquarium. So back to the dude. The dude asked me, did I want to go to church? No, I'm cool. The dude asked me, did I want to go to yoga? And at first I'm like, man, this shit weird, man. This is prison. You want me to go out there and do yoga with you? And why are you all up on me? So I'm thinking like, I'm almost on guard. So I kind of like pulled dude's resume a little bit. I'm like, yo, what's up with dude? Is he, you know, is he like gay or something? Or what's the, yeah. And I'm not trying to sound like just because somebody wants to, you know you that they got to be gay. And like, but again, these are the rules. I'm following my rules. I'm doing my research. I'm protecting my energy, so to speak. So everybody's like, no, man, that's JC. He's like probably one of the most solid dudes on his compound. Dude been down like X amount of years. He used to do yoga with this dude named Mohammed. And like, he's not on that racist shit. He's like a solid one. He's like real Christian now. He's gonna try to pull you into that Bible and get you to church every day. But he's a good dude. So I said, all right. So we catch the 5-minute rec move. And the rec yard's big as hell. They got a half-mile track. They got 2 softball fields, like 4 handball courts. They got about six basketball courts, full basketball courts, and an indoor gym with basketball courts. They got rec classes. I mean, that was the best thing about it. This is where everybody lived, on the rec yard. So after I tell you about this, I'll tell you more about the rec yard. So I've never done yoga in my life. I know a little bit of stretching, but I've never done yoga in my life. And I'm out there. So we get our yoga mats and we're just right out there in the middle of the compound by where everybody works out. And it's kind of a weird feeling because when you're out there, it feels like everybody's looking at you. And a lot of people are, because I told you, you got people in there just sitting, they people watch. Not everybody is trying to do things to better themselves. Not everybody is looking for some kind of hustle. There's some people that just sit in that bitch and don't know how to mind their business. And then they go and gossip about you or whatever else. So you can feel all these eyes on you. And so before we even started doing yoga, bro, JC was like, yo, there's 2 types of people that do yoga. You're either going to do it for the rest of your life or you're never going to do it again. And So I'm trying to do all these things, and they feel real awkward. And you're doing hamstring stretches, so you're bending over. And at first, I was like super self-conscious, like, damn, there better not be no booty bandits. Like looking, like, you know, you're thinking all these things. You're in prison, right? But as I tapped into my breathing, and I really like tuned all that out, and really was open-minded to bro, seeing that he has no weird intentions, that this is just a genuine person trying to build genuine connections and help people with what helped him. That's all it was. Now I'm starting to relax. I'm starting to connect deeper with my breath, which is connecting me deeper to nature. I remember it being a beautiful day. It was hot as hell, but I remember the breeze. And I remember what he told me when we finished that session. My very first ever yoga session in Williamsburg, South Carolina. This is in October of 2009. My very first spot, right? No, actually, it was October 08. I was already a year in that spot in 09, October 2008. He said, man, when you get up, so every time you end a yoga session, you end in what's called Shavasana, or corpse pose, and that's where you lay down. And it's a meditative state, but it's mimicking a corpse. Like you literally die and you come back to life. So it's like a rebirth. Like almost like a reincarnation in this life, right? To be able to start fresh. And so as we're coming up out of Shavasana, he tells me, pay attention to your body, how light you are on your feet when you're taking your steps. He's like, when you go in, because when everybody goes in from the yard, there's a big shower line. Everybody's trying to take a shower. You're not trying to go be locked back in your cell, smelling, stinking, sweating and all that. So there's a long shower line. So you get in the shower. So, he was like, yo, pay attention to how relaxed you are in the shower and how the water feels on your body, right? And to me, this shit not weird at all, because I just had this experience. And I remember getting up and walking and all of a sudden feeling lighter on my feet. And I used to have all this low back pain. I used to think there was something wrong with my low back. But all of a sudden, after all that stretching, no low back pain, no nothing. I felt light, like I was damn near floating. I got in that shower, that water felt amazing. I wasn't even worried about being in prison. I go in there and, my bunkie might have said something that pissed me off. I'm not even thinking about it now. Like I'm Gucci. Like I'm relaxed. I got that zen. And when I tell you, I went out there with him every day for 2 weeks straight. For 2 weeks straight, I went out there with him every day. I was still doing my workouts. But I knew right away, this is it. This is my weed, right? And I say that because weed is what kept me sane and kept me out of trouble, probably kept me from killing myself and others. Just to be real, when I was young, because I was troubled. And in here, I couldn't do any of the above. I got to get home to my family. Can't catch no more time. Don't want to make this any harder than it has to be. Workouts were making me aggressive, making me about to fire off on somebody. And now the yoga is helping me contemplate my mind, catch myself before I say something stupid. And even in my studies, I was like absorbing better. I was absorbing books better. So if you know anything about me, you know that yoga was instrumental in keeping me afloat in prison. And yoga actually might have saved my life, but it also created opportunity for me in connection when I got out of prison. So yoga is a major part of my life to this day. And it all started with JC. Shout out to JC. That's my bro. I don't even think he does yoga anymore, which is kind of sad. I still try to connect with people after prison, but highly recommended. Highly recommended yoga, right? But that I'm not trying to get all, on my soapbox about it. So I'll talk more about what you came for, and that's this prison shit. So we were on the rec yard to do the yoga. Now I'll talk a little bit more about the rec yard. So the rec yard, remember we talked about cars and the cafeteria. The cars where you're from or who you're affiliated with or your gang or whatever, right? Your state. It's the group of people that you choose to associate yourself with, right? But choose wisely, because once you're in that car, then you're going to be associated with everything that everybody does in that car. So choose those cars wisely. And so, but everybody ends up in a car at some point, unless you're just a complete loner. But a car could just be the one person that you got to know a little bit and you start working out and another guy starts working out and y'all eat together and you go work out together. So you got the 3-man car. That's cool. That happens all the time, right? So, but it's kind of cool to see these people from all these walks of life, denominations, vice lords, GDs, Pisces, Renos, Bloods, Crips, every ethnicity you can think of. And they get in their car and they get on that rec yard and you see these groups of guys doing burpees, doing push-ups, doing squats or whatever, right? They're in their car. Now, in the rec room, in the rec room, they had a big gymnasium where you could, let's think of it like a high school gym. They got the fake wood floors. They got the real deal plexiglass basketball goals. There's real deal leagues. There's basketball leagues. There's flag football leagues, soccer leagues, it's not hardball, it's softball, softball leagues, big team sports. And then they did fitness classes. They did yoga classes. They did interval training. You're not allowed to do no martial arts, and we weren't allowed to have weights. We weren't even allowed to have pull-up bars or dip bars because in the higher security institutions, you're not allowed to do upper body training. Some institutions even don't allow you to do push-ups. But this particular one, you were allowed to do calisthenics. You just weren't allowed to do pull-ups, dips, or push-ups. So, of course, you have a person doing a lookout, standing on a door jamb, doing your pull-ups on a door jamb or on a shower jamb, doing your dips on the railings. But, of course, if a CO, a cop, can write your shot, a write-up, which can lose time just for doing pull-ups or something like that. So the rec yard is where everybody's getting active, trying to get creative. You can take the fitness classes. And I'm going to be real, the fitness classes were amazing. These are unbelievable athletes. Some of them were Division I, maybe even professional athletes. Like I saw a lot of professional athletes, Division I athletes that were in there, served to end up catching cases, doing time, and then started teaching fitness classes in the recreation department. And then you had the band room, which eventually led me to get back with Big Baby. So I'm telling you about all this shit that's going on in the rec yard. And what I didn't tell you was I found Tim at this same spot. So remember, this is Live Struggle Legacy. This is my big homie, Timothy Big Baby Lewis. When I found Tim on the rec yard, I'm like, yo. So, and then there was some other people. There was a dude from Largo, Man. Shout out to Man. And a lot of people I'm not thinking about right now. But Florida was heavy out there, and Tim was right in the mix, and he was in a different unit. So the only time we would see each other was when we would eat. Of course, we sit each other when we eat. We would see each other on the rec yard. But like for birthdays and stuff, we got to where, okay, it's your birthday, I'm gonna cook you this. Oh, it's our birthday. I remember Tim made us these calzones. He made his own dough out of like flour and water. I don't know what he did. He made his own dough, made his own calzones. I mean, they were amazing. That was like prison gourmet in that motherfucker, those calzones. So I see Big Baby, and so I see the band room, and I want to be so active in this band room, but I don't know that much about the prison politics, right? And so I'm not saying this to offend anybody from any particular region, but I just want to touch on a few things as to why certain people didn't fuck with this particular band room. So this particular band room, they had a band slot with these DC dudes, right? And it was kind of like a go-go band, if you know go-go. Chuck Brown, you know what I mean? Drums, beat, and a lot of cowbell. But that's like some of the true OG foundation of hip-hop shit in DC, right? So they had like this go-go hip-hop band, and they were fire. They were crazy talented, right? And I don't know nothing about the politics of what these people got going on personally. I just know they were making fire music. So I was glued to the door listening to the music. And this is before we had MP3s in prison. You have MP3s now, but back then, you had to do it on the bass, you had to do it on the drum, you had to do it on the guitar. And I think in that particular band room, they only had to do it on the drum and they had to do it on the bass. So they would like make bass riffs and put a little drum beat to it. And these dudes are spitting. I mean, they're spitting. I mean, their content quality, honestly, is better than 90% of the shit that you hear on the radio right now. And it's all one take, so... there was a lot of talent in there on every single level. So I was feeling the music they were making, and eventually they see me, they're like, hey man, you can come in here. So I start going in there, and then they're like, man, you spit, and once in a while they give me the mic, and I remember I spit something on the mic, and had like people going crazy because they didn't expect that. They see this little goofy white guy sitting there in his khakis, not saying nothing. They don't know I'm in the Florida car, and they did not expect me to spit like I spit. So now they invite me in there all the time, and and I'm not doing shows with them. I'm just waiting for the mic to go around, and then they might make a little instrumental beat, and I'll write to it. But at some point, I was asking Big Baby, like, yo, why you don't fuck with the band room? He's like, man, them dudes on some other shit. And I wasn't privy to it at the time, but I told you one of the number one rules was don't talk to homosexuals. And what I didn't know, these dudes didn't seem like homosexuals. I'm not judging people for what they do behind closed doors, but these were like gangsters. They seem like gangsters, right? But they would be fucking this dude in another unit. All of them, they fuck, and it was kind of fucked up because dude was kind of slow. They used to call him Radio, like that from that movie Radio, with Cuban Gooding Jr. because he kind of looked like that. But the dude was kind of slow, and they would take advantage of him. And all these DC dudes, and I'm not saying DC dudes are gay. I'm just saying this particular group were running trains on this dude, and like some of them fucking each other and everything. And I didn't even believe it at first. I'm like, what? And then I got wind. I'm like, damn. I was green, and I felt like, okay, I'm done with the band room. You know what I mean? I'm done. Like, that's what I'm breaking one of the rules. You don't know. See, you don't know what you're getting yourself into. Who you're seen with, you're guilty by association. So you got to watch your every move, right? And maybe life shouldn't be like that, but it is, and it is what it is. And when you're in Rome, like if you're trying to make it home to your family and you don't want problems, and you're trying to have peace within your bed, within this chaos, you got to watch your every move. So that was the end of the band room for me in Williamsburg. We'll pick up on the band room later in a different spot when I reunited with Big Baby. But I want to say one more thing about this rec yard before I forget, because this is hilarious. So the Sereno dudes would play basketball different. I've never seen any kind of basketball like this ever. They did not dribble. They made basketball a full contact sport. Those dudes would carry the ball like a football. They would be blocking. It was like a full contact sport. And what's so crazy, if anybody else did this on the yard, they'd probably shut it down and close the yard or lock you up or something. And when I say lock you up, they'll put you in the hole, solitary confinement, or what they call the SHU. The SHU is an acronym for a special housing unit. That's where you go when you get wrong in jail, right? I mean, when you get wrong in prison, there is a jail within jail, and it's called the SHU, or what they call the hole. So they would do that just for horseplay. You're not allowed to horseplay. But for some reason, they didn't fuck with these dudes. I don't know if it was the brand power or what, because these are cartel dudes. These are MS-13s and Serenos, and these were the motherfuckers that you did not want to play with. But I'll tell you what, I don't want to say I never had so much fun. That's a motherfucking lie. But I truly enjoyed watching these motherfuckers play basketball. They made it look like so much fun. It was the craziest thing you ever seen, the craziest basketball that you have ever. They're like comedians out there, man. But this is how they're bidding, right? And so when you're in prison, you got to learn how to bid. And bidding means doing your time. People bid out here in a way, like, you might have like a work to people that maybe can't relate to doing time and catching cases and whatnot. If you go to work every day and there are certain times of day where it's just dragging, and you have that one work friend, it might not be somebody you don't even much like that much. You just talk to this motherfucker and start trying to get them to talk more and say things that you already know the answer to because you're trying to kill time, right? Because you're bidding off this person, right? So this is something that we would often do in prison, bid off one another. You might bid off somebody you don't even know by watching them play basketball. But these dudes are playing basketball and they're bidding off one another, making light of a serious situation, if that makes sense. So I talked about the cafeteria. I talked about the rec yard. While we're talking about the rec yard, I might as well talk about when shit pops off, right? So when shit pops off in prison, they call it hitting the deuces. all the cops, including the nurses, the mail people, the rec people, everybody on the rec yard, they have a body alarm. It's a red button they push, and they call it deuces. And one of the cops had actually told us that they call it deuces because if you pick up any phone and you dial 2222222, it does the same thing. It draws the emergency body alarm. So when somebody hits the deuces, it's actually hilarious. Well, not necessarily somebody might just got killed, but I mean, when you just watch what happens when you hit the deuces, COs, cops start running at it everywhere, and you have no idea how many staff they have until somebody hits the deuces. And when they hit the deuces, what they do is wherever you're at, they lock you in. So if you're in the unit, they lock you in the unit. If you're in the rec yard, they lock you in the rec yard. If you're in the library, they lock you in. I mean, you're probably locked in already, but the CO leaves and they just lock you in because every cop there, when somebody hits the deuces, they all go running because they are a gang and they all stick together against us. And so it doesn't matter if somebody could have a seizure. It could be medical. They hit the deuces, everybody goes running. But I say it's comical because I remember the mail lady, and she was a fucking piece of shit. She would tear up your people's photos, send shit back that she didn't have to, hold your mail from you. So I'll say that she's a piece of shit. I have no problem making fun of her. And she was a rather large woman. She was fat as hell. And she had these gigantic titties that were, each one was like the size of me. And she was tall as hell. And mean as a fucking rattlesnake. But when this lady would come running out of the mailroom, it was the funniest thing in the world because you would see her giant titties and they'd be like, shoom, shoom. And she's trying to run as fast as she can. And then you'd see, the little old lady come out of the kitchen, the nurses, like the little old man that can barely run. Everybody goes running to wherever the action is. Right, so that's when they hit the deuces. And there was this one particular incident. And now us, if we're walking, if you don't get on the ground, they will fuck you up, right? And if it's real, then they call in the gun tower. And if you don't get on the ground, they're gonna pump your ass full of lead. No exaggeration. They got live ammunition in that gun tower. That there are not rubber bullets. It's not sandbags. It's live ammunition. So it's. There's no other way to say it. So when you're walking on a rec yard, if you don't get down, they're going to fuck you up and they're going to lock you up. And they will beat your ass every time. They're going to make sure they beat your ass. They're going to set an example of you. I don't care what spot you're at. They will all beat your ass. So we got to lay down on the ground. Everybody lays down on the ground when they hit the deuces. So this one day, they hit the deuces and we all get down on the ground and that lady comes running out of the mailroom running, and she falls flat on her face. All that weight, titty weight, everything just boom, hits the ground hard as hell. Now normally I'd be like, damn, even if she's a cop, like, damn, that's fucked up. I hope she's okay. But not this bitch. Fuck this bitch. I'm sorry. God forgive me. Fuck that bitch. We were laughing so hard because you don't know she's playing with your mail, and that's your only connection to the outside world. Like, we don't give a fuck about this bitch. So when we see her fall flat on her face, everybody starts laughing. And do you know that because of that, the assistant warden, who was an asshole, he locked us down, I want to say for like a week behind that. And when I say locked down, I mean bologna sandwiches. You're not leaving your cell. You're stuck in that bitch. No rec yard, no nothing. And you can't even move within the unit. You are in your cell with your bunkie for a fucking week. It was at least a couple days they locked us down behind that. So that was a pretty memorable moment. But another thing that's crazy, like one of the crazier things that happened on that rec yard, there was a riot. I don't even remember what it was. And in prison, it's interesting how the race thing works because the majority of people in prison are black. The majority. Every prison I've been to, and I'm sure it's like that everywhere. The second biggest population is the Mexican population. But I'll be honest, in this one spot, I'm pretty sure as a whole, the Hispanic population was the biggest as a whole, right? And then the smallest minute group was the white Caucasian population. That's why the motherfuckers are so thirsty for friends, right? Because they're trying to power up. So what's interesting is you have these rival gangs like Paisas and Sureños, but they have some like unwritten code. If one of their groups gets in a fight with black people, well then all of a sudden it's like an unspoken rule. All the Mexicans, whether they're Paisas or Sureño, they click up. All the black people, whether they're Vice Lord, GD, whatever city, state they're from, they click up. And then it's war. And you don't ever want to see that. And I actually saw that in a low. So that never happened when I was in the medium high, but I believe it was Paisas and Sureños started fighting. And it's crazy because it's like the cartoons. So when you watch the cartoons, you see a fight, but all you see is dust. You don't really see, you might see a hand come up, a leg come up, you might see a chair, a baseball bat fly through the air, or like just debris, but you don't actually see anything. You just see a big bowl of dust, right? And then you hear on the loudspeaker, lockdown, 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 on the ground. So at that moment, you better get your ass on the ground. So people got fucked up. I don't think anybody got killed, but people got fucked up real bad. It was a big ass riot. It was Paisas and Sureños. And this is the only time I remember they made us get naked on the rec yard. Everybody. To make sure you don't have no knives, you don't have no weapons. So we're all out in this hot ass South Carolina. It was the summertime. That's when a lot of the fights happen because you're hot, you're heated, and you're in jail. You know what I mean? You're in prison. So yeah, they made us get naked and come out. And I do remember they had like some sexy ass female officers, and you're like, okay, so you're like trying to perk up, flex up, whatever the case may be. So and they're like checking your mouth, make sure you have nothing in your mouth, and then one by one you're going back up to the rec yard. And that shit doesn't happen all the time, but it happens. And this particular time, I think, was the longest we were locked down because it was political. It was two major rival gangs. Cartels are involved in those gangs, so it's like they're not playing the radio. We were locked down, I think, maybe 2 weeks in the cell, bologna sandwiches, it's like straight bullshit. So I believe that was the longest we were ever locked down. And like when shit pops off in prison, it's crazy because rarely do you, unless you're right there, rarely do you see anything because it's such a dense population. You see a whole bunch of bodies, a whole bunch of noise, and it happens so fast. The next thing you know, everybody spreads and there's just a bloody motherfucking mess on the ground. Somebody's laying there, maybe with a knife in them, or maybe just head busted wide open from a lock in a sock or something. And it happens so fast. A lot of times it happens so fast and then they even get the person and put the person away. And then you got convicts treating the person because they don't want to get locked down. You got people making wine over here. People got selling weed over here. Like they don't want to shake down. They don't want to, all these problems. So, it cleans up so fast. It's crazy how 1 minute you see all this shit and then the next minute you see somebody come with the mop bucket and then you got the bloody mop bucket in the mop closet and everybody's acting normal. It's just real quiet. But oftentimes, they usually wait for the controlled movement because that's when it's super dense. You got this controlled movement, all these bodies standing. It's easy to bust a move real quick, stab somebody up, hit them with a lock, or just fuck them up real bad. Because those hard boots, those will do just as much damage as a lock in the sock. You get them up on the ground, you start kicking their teeth in with hard boots. Oh man, they got this dude so good one time, and he was just a bloody mess. I never saw him again. I hope he's okay. But it was some weird. He owed somebody money. You know what I mean? You owe somebody money. They go to the shot caller first, and they say, "Okay, well, what are you gonna do? Are y'all gonna cover the debt?" And if the shot caller says, "No, he's been fucking up. Fuck it." Then okay, there's no protection. They fuck his ass up. So, this is the kind of shit that would go on the regular. Now, when I brought up the female CO, and that made me think of the Mad Gunners. So now I want to revisit the Mad Gunners for a moment. There's so many stories. I could literally go on hours and hours. I can't talk all night on this one. But I'll talk about gunners, mad gunners. So the gunners I would see in the county jail. I knew about the gunners in county jail, and basically it's just a perverted ass motherfucker who, and it could be somebody you least expect. It could be your homie that you know real well, you talk to all the time, like, and then you see this motherfucker, it turns into an animal when he sees a woman. So when the nurse would come for like sick call to give you the pills or whatever, this is in county, they would push people out the way, stand to the window, hold their dick where they would try to let the nurse see it, and they'll jack their dick in the window, right? This is a gunner. They call it. So when they say, oh, like you, it might be one of the homeboys, you might be talking, he might all of a sudden stop playing cards, stop working out, and say, oh man, I'm about to go gun this bitch down right quick. And then he runs over to the window, jacking his dick, and like, now, if he thinks she's what they call an eater, meaning that she's gonna welcome it, because a lot of these women are freaks, we all know this, men too, clearly. So if it's an eater, now he wants to try to expose himself to the woman, and then she might even give him a look, or might even do something with her body to encourage it. This happens all the time, right? But if she's not, well, then she's gonna hit the deuces, and they're gonna bag his ass and fucking put him in solitary, and probably give him a sex charge for exposing himself, right? And some places even make you wear a different colored jumpsuit so everybody knows, okay, that's a gunner. But prison took this shit to a whole nother fucking level of disgust. Had me change my entire diet plan, right? I didn't know about gunners. And then we're in the cafeteria. And what I learned at the time, because when you're in the cafeteria, you know, you might see a homeboy that lives in a different unit. And you never really get to see that homeboy. And so now you're in the cafeteria, you're chopping it up, you're talking about people back home. You know what I mean? And so you stay damn near until they kick you out. Well, I never do that again, because I did that once talking to one of my homies, and I see this motherfucker next to me, and he's got his jacket over him, and then they have these big institution glasses, and they'll borrow them from somebody, because when you wear these big dumbass glasses, you really people can't see where you're looking because of the reflection off the glasses. So there was this big, tall female lieutenant, big titties, big ass. She was probably like 6 feet tall. We used to call her Big Bird. And she would stand there, and now when you go through the chow line, you got to use your ID, and they scan it, so you can't double back on the chow line. So because what people would do if they don't get scanned, they'll jump right back in the chow line so you can eat again. Why wouldn't you? Shit. So they scan it, then you can't get back through the line. So sometimes it would be the female CO scanning the ID, and now the gunners. The gunners don't give a fuck. They're savage. They will literally fight and die for this shit. They'll go sit at a table that's politically hot, like somebody that's not, you know what I mean, of their car, so to speak, and just disrespect everybody at the table so that they can gun down the CO. So they bring their government issue jacket, and they got their cup in their hand, and they're pretending to eat, but they're jacking off in the kitchen, right next to where you eat. So the first time I see that, and what made me so sick is it was one of the homies, man, the homie from Jayville. We called him Jayville. And dude was cool as a motherfucker, but I'm not gonna lie, ever since that he would try to, we used to shake hands, bro. Like, hit the motherfucking hammer, bro. No. So, and I'm not gonna lie, I was in my feelings. It was him and another dude from Palm Beach sitting side by side, and they would take turns. Like, one would watch, make sure no other COs were looking, one would jack off, and they would tag team. And then after a while, I would notice they would do this all the time. Damn near every time they go eat their food, and then instead of putting their tray up. Now here's where it gets disgusting, and this is where I had to change my whole Where do you think they ejaculate? They ejaculate in the fucking tray. They ejaculate in the plastic cup. And then that shit gets barely washed. You think these convicts, they're working on, you ain't got no trays but to work. They're barely washing these shits. And then bringing them right back out there. So I instantly became Jewish. I started studying Leviticus 11. I put in my cop out to the fucking commissary. I said, I need a kosher meal. I am Jewish. Okay? Bunch of Jewish people got mad as hell. I don't give a fuck. God damn it. I'm not eating out of them fucking trays. I'm not drinking out of them fucking drinks. Fuck all that. Like, no, that is sick. I got kosher meals, and these are like airplane meals. And I'm not gonna lie, they were disgusting. Some of them were real good, but most of them bitches were disgusting. And now, like, I'm starving. I'm fucking starving in that bitch. And now, once you do choose the kosher meal, you can't go back. And they'll watch you, and then they'll write you up because you're not supposed to eat anything else. And of course, you know, you when you go to the chow hall, dudes are stealing shit out the kitchen and selling it. You know, like if it might be chicken day, they might be selling chicken thighs, or you know what I mean, leg quarters. If it's chicken patty day, they might be selling chicken patties. And so, you know, and I'll be honest, man, in this particular prison, the food was good. I'm gonna be real with you. I never thought I would say that, but the food was good. They had a culinary arts program. It wasn't always good. It depended on who was in there. But the lunch line, when these dudes from the culinary arts program were cooking, they were cooking. They were making, I mean, real deal, incredible food. I mean, I'm sure the ingredients were shit, but it was good food. So it was kind of tough to make that transition from like the leg quarters, the chicken patties, and all this to these microwave kosher meals. You know, the silver lining was I would get no meat, and then they just give you 2 kosher things of peanut butter. I ate more peanut butter, and I ate enough peanut butter to last a lifetime. You know, in prison. And it's crazy to this day. I still eat it. I don't even know how. But I was not about to be drinking people's semen and eating, you know, food touching semen and whatnot. And it's so disgusting that, you know, men become savages. They lose all good sense. You got a whole lot of ditties in this motherfucker, man. Like, you got motherfuckers that they're gangster one minute, the next minute they got motherfucker bent in the mop closet, fucking them in the mop closet, right? There was more homosexual activities going on in these mop closets. I would never be a kitchen orderly or a unit orderly one of these because the mop room smells like semen. I'm not exaggerating. It's disgusting. You can smell it. It smells like a brothel or some shit. It's disgusting. No, it smells like a bathhouse. And I'm pretty sure if a bathhouse where people were like homosexuals with me, I don't know. That's before my time. But I imagine where people are having a lot. It smells like Badissi without the pussy. That's what it smells like, goddammit. Dick and ass and balls and nut. That's what you smell in these mop closets. So, you know, after a while, you don't even want to eat in the kitchen. Because that's your spending limit, right? $320 a month. But I didn't have $320 a month when I was in that bitch. I was lucky that if I had $100 or $200 a month in that bitch. I never even came close to that spending limit. Maybe my first time I got there when I had to buy like all my supplies. You got to buy your gym shorts. You got to buy your sweats, your radio. So you make like one big purchase. And I think I may have hit my spending limit that first time. But after that, I don't think I ever hit my spending limit again. You know, I'm not out there gambling. I'm not making money. I'm not hustling. You know what I mean? So, and I will talk about what we did to make money and the jobs. There's this whole prison industry, right? Within a prison industry. But that's enough prison shit for the night, y'all. So, I will end it with this. Right now, where we're at, I'm probably like a year in my bid. 2008 to 2009, Williamsburg, South Carolina, seeing some homies, figuring things out, got up on my yoga, and the whole time I'm making this plan to get out, I'm reading these books. And, you know, in my mind, trying to keep positive, because in my mind, those doors were going to open any minute. Like, I'm under God's control. Man don't decide when I'm free. Man don't decide when I'm locked up. That's up to God. So if I'm sitting in this prison It's for a reason, and I need to figure out why and make the best out of it. So I want to end on this one note. When you go to prison, they take everything from you. If you had money, they take you. If you had a wife, they take you away from it. Your children, they take you away. If you had material possessions, they take them. If you're fortunate, you have people who can hold those things down for you. That's super rare. And the vast majority of the time, those people are not equipped to handle those things. So you lose those things with whoever you left them with. So when we would go out to the rec yard and we would exercise, we would call it money. When we would read our books, when we would write, make our plans, we're getting money. Why money? Because we're adding value to ourselves in a way that it could never, ever, ever be taken from you. So this is episode 7, Live Struggle Legacy. I appreciate y'all checking in. If you haven't already, hit that follow, like, subscribe, drop some comments, start a conversation. It's Live Struggle Legacy. I'll see y'all next episode back in Williamsburg, episode 8. We building pyramids, y'all. Live Struggle Legacy. You know what it is.
Live struggle legacy. It's a whole movement.